Hi, this is Kevin Campbell, and you're listening to the delectable ladies at Highbury and Heels.
Hello everyone, welcome to another Highbury and Heels podcast. We're on episode 19. Joining me today is my partner in crime, Soph. Hello, Soph.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno, darling. Happy Easter.
Thank you very much. Us Greeks are celebrating today. As soon as I'm done from this, I'm going to go stuff my face.
With what? With what?
Kebabs, flaones. I'm not sure if Harry bought you your flaona, but we make these special cheese pastries and stuff like that. I've been on a bit of a cleanse, you know, saving myself for today. So today's a bit of a spoiler day for me.
Right, okay. Well, we're being spoiled today, aren't we, Soph?
I think so.
I am so excited to introduce Arsenal, Notts Forest, Trabzonspor, Everton, West Brom and Cardiff Cities.
Hold on a second. He has won with Arsenal the FA Youth Cup, the First Division, the FA Cup, the League Cup, the Cup Winners' Cup, a champion with Nottingham Forest, and one of our Everton's greatest goal scorers, Tim Cahill, Duncan Ferguson, Lukaku and Amanda.
It's Mr. Super Kevin Campbell.
Welcome to the show.
Woo-woo.
Hello, ladies. How are you?
Epic now you're on. We've been waiting for this day, Kevin. We have been waiting with bated breath.
I've got to say, I follow you ladies a lot, as you know, because I think what you guys are doing is great. And I've been biding my time to get on. So thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I'm very excited to chat to you. So, Soph and Kev, I have just got back from a wet Emirates watching, well, our team narrowly beat Southampton 3-2. Do you know what? I don't even want to talk about this for too much longer because there's so much we want to talk to you, Kevin, about. But I'm just going to say that the defending, I don't even think we should call it defending anymore, is beyond a joke. And bless him, and I even said, wouldn't it be wonderful if Welbeck scored today? I didn't envisage what actually played out. Kevin, have you ever missed a goal like that?
I don't think I have. But what I will say is he really made up for it after that, didn't he? You know, that was a chance. That was a gilt-edged chance to take the team ahead. But this is the lot of a striker. The striker has to be able to miss chances. Maybe not so easy, but you know, you dust yourself down and you come back. And Danny Welbeck proved to be the match winner for Arsenal today. I believe when Danny's fully fit, I think he's a top player. I really do. And he's come out of that Manchester United school. He's done really well for himself, and he struggled with injury at Arsenal and he hasn't really had a good run. So, you know, I'm really pleased for him today. Really am.
Kev, he gets such a hard time, doesn't he, Danny? And I think we've all been hard on him. I think we've been hard on him on this podcast as well. And I guess it's just because of some of the simple things that we want to see him do, i.e. with that glaring miss, even though he made up for it afterwards. It's kind of the footballer's way of thinking. As a centre forward, if you're going into that opportunity, aren't you just putting your your foot up and trying to punch it in with the bottom of your studs, as opposed to trying to do what he did? I think sometimes from an intelligence point of view, he makes good decisions, but simple ones he doesn't always get right.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't think Danny's a number 9 striker. And when he plays there, he seems to be a little bit unorthodox. He seems to be a lot more comfortable coming from the wider spots up top. So, you know, being there as a striker in the middle of the goal, you know, it just seemed a little bit awkward for me. But like I say, you know, we come up trumps for Arsenal today, and we're thankful for that today because we needed that win. Yeah,
and then what were your thoughts on? He gets the header afterwards. He actually finishes the more complex. I thought Iwobi did really well. I think, you know, Danny's getting a lot of the accolades, but that work from Iwobi, who's also come under fire, especially this season, did a really good job with that pass, didn't he?
Yeah, look, I think the way Arsenal's going at the moment, it will be, there's a lot of players who have been bought for big money. Iwobi's come through the ranks, and he's still finding his feet in the first team. He's still so young, and I think fans should bear with him a lot more. But today I thought he done very well. Supplied the cross for Danny Welbeck, and it's just typical Danny Welbeck. Is scoring the harder of the chances to put the Gunners ahead. So that was fantastic.
Kev, can I just ask you? We saw 2 sendings off in a space of a few minutes. I saw El Neni raise his hand, so he had to go. What do you think on the Saints player? Because it was quite away from me at that point, and I couldn't really see. Was it down to Jack or something?
Look, there was hands all over the place. There was probably 2 Saints players. If you're gonna sell El Neni off, there's probably 2 Saints players who probably could go. But I thought the referee lost control of the game.
Yeah, he
really did. And once that happens, it's absolutely madness what happened. That was never a sending off. El Neni should never have gone. And it's crazy to me.
Kevin, do you think that in the case of Southampton and Arsenal, can you see those red cards being taken back?
Rescinded.
Yeah, rescinded if Arsenal and Southampton lodge complaints, because it seems like both are in agreement on this. The El Neni one especially harsh, and Jack actually got away with it because he kicked him up the butt before and the referee completely missed that. I thought Jack showed a lot of petulance in that moment too. A quick response on them being potentially rescinded and Jack's petulance coming through there unnecessarily, and still being a question mark in terms of his game.
Yeah, well, let's take care of Jack first. I think obviously Jack did show petulance, doing what he'd done. He could have got a red card for what he'd done, and definitely if the team's put in to get the red cards rescinded, they should be rescinded because they were never red cards.
Yeah, no, definitely. I don't know. I mean, it's Amanda. It's one of those. I think right now we're performing under, we're doing better, but we haven't really faced anyone of note. So I feel like we're shining against really poor teams.
Yeah, but you can only play what's in front of you. And also I predicted about 3 games ago that we wouldn't lose to the end of the season. So when it was like 2-1, when it was like 1-0, I was going, oh, I should shut up. You can only play what's put in front of you. And the thing is, the momentum's there at the moment, and each game we're playing, let's just keep winning. Right. Okay, so that's today. We got another 3 points, scored another 3 lot of goals, saw terrible defending. Kevin, being an Arsenal fan, what was it like the first time you walked up the marble steps in '88 into the Marble Hall as a young boy? I want to know everything.
Well, actually, my first time I went up the marble steps, we used to go in when we were about 14 years old.
Wow.
So, we used to get the tube up, and when I was going for training, and we used to go in there to see Terry Murphy and Pat Rice.
Yeah.
So that was my first time of actually being in the marble halls, and for years, for probably 7 years, I'd been outside just looking at it from outside. To be on the inside of the club and see the dressing rooms and stuff, it was amazing. It was like such a special place for me. It really was, and I just knew I wanted to play for the Arsenal. So it was crazy, to be honest. It really was.
Is it kind of like, when you leave junior school and then you go to secondary school and you dream, when you're young and you're a kid, you want to go to the big school, right? Especially if you have brothers, sisters, or people you admire in secondary school. You just want to make that next step. And then you actually get there and it's a bit daunting. It feels like, wow, everything's so much bigger than I expected. I'm not the coolest cat in the room. Is that, so for us mere mortals who haven't played professional football, is that what it feels like?
Not so much. I mean, when you're in the marble halls, obviously you're steeped in history at Highbury. I mean, like I said, I was 7 years old the first time I went to Highbury. I couldn't even afford to get in. Me and my friends used to put money together to just buy a program. So when they used to open the door of the North Bank or the clock end, the gates, we used to quickly nut in to see the last 15, 20 minutes of the game. But it's when you're actually at the club and you go to London Colney in the summertime, when the first team are actually training, and you're there as a young kid and you're playing games, and the first team have got a break from their pre-season training schedule, and some of the first team players are actually coming and watching the games. That's what made it feel daunting, because you're like, wow, these are the guys I pay money to go and watch, and they're watching us play. That was what was so special about Arsenal at the time. And to be fair to the first team, they would give you advice and give you high fives and all that, even back then. So, this is a really special club for me.
So growing up, it was your club, wasn't it? You've been an Arsenal fan since you were a little boy, yeah?
Yes, little boy. My eldest brother, Patrick, was an Arsenal fan. So I've grown up with it, and I started to do my own thing with my mates, because we used to obviously get the Red Bus Rover and do all kinds of things. So we just used to travel all the time, and we ended up going to Highbury.
Wow.
Clearing up for home games.
So awesome.
So who scouted you? Where were you found?
I was scouted in South London. The scout who scouted me was a guy called Fred Ricketts. He was South London scout. And I think it was playing for his school, and then playing for South London schools. Fred Ricketts was an absolute diamond of a man. Told me about Arsenal. I said, Fred, you don't need to tell me anything. He said, I'm an Arsenal fan. He said, no. He said, but no. He said, but I really do need to tell you. He said, because there's certain things you need to know. So a lot of the car journeys we had, he just used to tell me about what it was like. And obviously at the time, I was at the same school as Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas was 3 years ahead of me at school.
I don't know who he is.
Thomas.
Who?
Of course you don't. Of
Sorry,
course you don't. The 89 Miracle, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
You'll have to remind me in a bit.
Yeah. Michael Thomas and I went to the same school. So, he was telling me about Michael and Rocky and Paul Davis and all the guys, Gus, all the guys who had been in and around it at the time. Raphael Mead was there.
Oh, my God.
Chris White was there, Tony Isaacs, all the guys were there. So it was really a special time as a South London boy going to Arsenal. It really was.
South London boy going to North London. I love it. And going down this memory lane with you, Kevin, is really special. We were talking last week on the podcast about, with one of our young fans of the week, Mark, how it's important for new fans to, know the history and know the journey of some of Arsenal's most celebrated players, you being one of them. Who took you under your wing? You mentioned you went to school with Michael Thomas, but like when I went to secondary school, I had one of my cousins to take me under their wing and show me the way. Who was the player that really took you under their wing when you first arrived?
When I first arrived, here's the crazy thing. When I first started to get involved, I was actually still at school. I was 15. I think I showed Amanda the picture with Merce with the mullet. Could you remember, Amanda?
Yeah.
And that was the youth team. So I was involved with the youth team from 15 years old. So I was coming in. I was rubbing shoulders with the likes of Paul Merson and Russell Milton and all those guys at the time. Pat Rice was the coach. But then I'd see Michael Thomas and Rocastle and all those guys, Martin Hayes and all those guys at the time. And to be fair to them, they all knew who I was, because word had got around that this young kid from South London, is a bit good. So they expect me to, they were just saying, you keep at it and, then you'll come in. So I was buzzing. You could imagine me. They knew who I was. I was so happy. So coming in, it was all of the above, to be honest. And one person I must mention when I joined, I used to do his boots at the time as well, was John Lukic. John Lukic really used to look after me when I was there. And it's quite weird because you wouldn't expect me and John Lukic, I'm sure we're from different backgrounds, big time, but John Lukic, the club was steeped in players who would actually want to look after the younger players. So, I was so happy about that. And David O'Leary was a good influence too, by the way. Really good influence.
Top lad.
This just takes me back to my youth, all these names. Okay, so I want to know a couple of things from you. Your first professional game and your first professional goal in the first team.
Well, my first professional game, funny enough, was against Everton in '88. Everton away. It was the last game of the season.
How ironic is that, Kevin?
Yeah.
Exactly. And the funny thing was, Everton had that top team at the time with Southall, Ratcliffe, Peter Reid, Bracewell, Graham Sharp, Sheedy. That team rolled off the tongue. Gary Stephen, Trevor Stephen. This is the game before they left for Glasgow Rangers.
Wow.
We ended up winning the game 2-1. I came on for 12 minutes, and as soon as I had a taste of it, I said to myself, no, I need more of this. This is fantastic. And the first goal was at Highbury against Nottingham Forest. And it was funny that you remember the Forest fans used to say, we were on a drought, a goal drought. And the Forest fans used to sing, "You'll never beat Des Walker."
Yes, they did.
And we were winning 2-0 at the time. And I think the ball got played through to Alan Smith, and he just turned it round the corner. And I've spoken to Des about this previous since then. He said he thought, I'll just get there nice and easy. And before he knew it, I was gone. And I put a left foot shot, scored in front of the North Bank, which was really ironic for me. So stuck a left foot shot past Nottingham Forest, and I beat Des Walker. So that was brilliant.
Brilliant.
Can I just ask one thing? Something I will never know. Experience. What was that feeling like the minute it crossed the line and you knew you'd scored your first goal for your boyhood club in front of the North Bank where you used to stand? What was it like?
Well, I don't know if you can imagine a firework going off inside.
Yeah.
That's what it was like. It's very hard to control your emotion because I've known Arsenal so long. I've known Arsenal such a long time, and it's been such a big part of my life that you always dream of stuff like that. I want to score in front of the North Bank first. And I get the opportunity to score in the North Bank and beat one of the England centre-halves to boot. So that, for me, that was like, whoa, that was amazing feeling. Really was. It was like a firework rocket going up inside me.
I love that so much, and you don't really get that as much these days in modern day football. And, to kind of be able to fulfill that dream's amazing. So then you get to Arsenal and, things are going really well. And I've always want to get in the head of the player here in terms of you finally arrive at your dream club and then you get sent out on loan. And that happens a lot still today and happened a lot back in the day. And I think, in many ways, Kevin, it makes players even better and I think probably drives them even further to kind of really achieve. Does it feel at the time, though, that, oh, my God, my career here's over? Talk us through that a little bit.
Well, let me just explain how it worked. Because I was very close to the first team, being in the first team squad. But now I tasted the first team at 18. I trained all that summer. And I came back for pre-season. I was hungry. I was really hungry. And George Graham said, you need to go out and get get looked after. You need to go and find your feet at a lower level and then come back more experienced. I turned around to George Graham and I said, look, do you want me to go now or do you want me to go later? Mm-hmm. And he was a bit shocked by that because he was saying, look, I'll keep you around the first team squad. I said, no, I don't want to be around the first team squad if I'm not playing. I want to go out. So what happened was he said, Leyton Orient are interested. So I said, right, I'll go there. I didn't even look at the league. And when I looked at the league, they were second bottom. So I thought to myself,
you had to work hard.
Yeah, I thought no problem. Because once you've tasted first team football, going back to the reserves, in empty stadiums or, in front of a handful of people isn't right. So it was as much as my calling as anybody.
Wow.
Okay, so you come back to Arsenal, yeah? And then you become part of the greatest Arsenal squads ever. in my head.
Debatable.
Anyway.
The Invincibles were pretty good too. But anyway, carry on. In
my youth, then. Okay. Start arguing about 89 and the Invincibles. I'm going to touch on it now. Okay, I'm going to touch on 89 because we have to. So being the fact that I was in the East Stand up for the games, Wimbledon and Derby, the two before Anfield, I've never discussed this actually with someone that was you on the bench for those games? Were you in the squad?
No, I was in the squad, but I wasn't on the bench.
Right.
So I'd go and have pre-match meal with the team, and the manager would name the team and the subs, and because at the time there was only 2 subs, so then we'd all travel back down to Highbury for the game, and you're watching it with a different set of eyes now.
Yeah, that's why I want to ask you this. Yeah.
You're watching it with a different set of eyes, and the lads prepared just like they normally do, but there was just something missing. It takes a bit of time to get over that hump, and we just couldn't seem to be able to get a result. The team, it was a great team, but we couldn't get a result. Obviously it was fate, but at the time, George Graham didn't know really what to do because everybody had prepared as best they can.
So my question is, and the reason I'm really pleased that you weren't in there, I want to know what the atmosphere was like. Being part of the squad, you weren't on the bench. You were becoming like a fan. You were becoming frustrated, I suppose, like us, because we didn't know what was going on. And honestly, I remember that I went on Capital Gold Radio, whatever it was, like a version of Talk Sport is now. I went ballistic after the Derby match. I was like, we've lost it. There's no point going to Anfield. Honestly, I ranted like a teenager because I was at those times. I was beside myself in a way that we didn't expect to win the league at that point anyway, because Liverpool were Liverpool. And as I've always said, going to Anfield is like a fortress in the 80s. You're never going to win. But there was a chance that we could have won it before we got there, and we blew it.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of disappointment in the dressing room, obviously, for those games, solely because when George Graham first took over, for the first day he came in, he got all of the playing staff and sat everybody down, and he said, look, our mentality and our plan, we've got to be challenging Liverpool. We've got to be the best. He said, I've played for the club. I know what it takes. And if you're on board, and he pointed at all the youth team players as well. He said, if you're good enough, you're going to get a chance here. He said, but I only want players who are driven to take Liverpool's mantle. And I'll never forget, I still remember it as if it was yesterday. So that set the precedent, that foundation right there was put in place. So now here we have a chance to take Liverpool on, to beat them. And we're messing up. It's not them messing up, we're messing up ourselves. So it was hard to take. I know there was some difficult times in the dressing room, some harsh words said, and then it all culminated on that Friday night.
Who was it Tony Adams in the dressing room? I mean, he, in the 89 film, obviously, he spoke about being George Graham's voice out on the pitch and with the players. And when you talk about leaders and the ultimate captain, Tony is definitely that guy, probably one of the greatest captains the Premier League has ever seen. Talk us through what you saw in the dressing room, and who other than Tony maybe were those leaders, and what was it like to be led under someone like him?
Well, if you don't forget, there was some good experienced players in there. There was obviously John Lukic was there, David O'Leary had seen a lot. There was a lot of good players around. Kevin Richardson had come from Everton, and there was young players who were hungry. Rocastle, Thomas, all those guys were very hungry. Steve Bolden, Lee Dixon had come to the club, and Nigel Winterburn, who were hungry to win. Alan Smith had been at Leicester and stuff and come in and scored a lot of goals. So it was time. It was actually time. Martin Hazard had a good season as well. It was time for Arsenal to do something. I think Tony Adams was really the main voice. You know, he was so young, but he was so determined and such a leader. You know, being in and around it, he was always trying to G people up and get people focused on the task at hand. You know, it was amazing to see. And even when things were going wrong, Tony Adams was still that person who was, you know, that listen, let's dust ourselves down and let's get go. You know, so it was always there. It was always there as a pick me up, and you never forget times like that when you see a great leader like that rallying the troops.
So we're not going to talk about this Friday night because I could talk about it for 10 hours, and I'm sure people are bored senseless of me talking about this. But there is something I do want to mention. We all know the beginning, we all know the middle, and we all know the ending. Well, I do.
Yeah.
I just want to mention something that Alan Smith said to us, which is quite funny. It's a funny story. Obviously, you've got the week. You're on the coach going up to Anfield. He reckoned that everyone and their son was on that coach that night. Is that day? Is that correct?
That's correct. Well, can I maybe share some things that you wouldn't know?
Please do.
About the day, because Dave Rocastle's girlfriend at the time, which was his wife, Janet, lived in Brixton, and I'm living in Brixton. So Rocky says, "Kev, I'll pick you up from Brixton Town Hall at 5 a.m. So picks me up from Brixton Town Hall at 5 a.m. Me and Dave Rocastle, we're listening to Bob Marley songs and we're listening to everything going up to Highbury. We get to Highbury, Tony Donnelly sorting out the kit without even asking anything. Dave Rocastle's helping sort the kit out and the boots, and we're loading the Arsenal first team coach up with the skips. This is the Friday morning.
Brilliant.
This is Friday morning. So we travel up to London Colney to pick all the lads up. And on the journey up there, George Graham decides to put the 70-71 FA Cup final on, where Charlie George scored a goal.
Oh,
and he reckons he got a touch on that ball.
Oh, does he really?
Yes, he reckons he touched it. So for 45 minutes, I'll never forget it. Me, Dave Elliott, Alan Miller, we're the youth team players who are kind of just come out the youth team, move and travelling up there. Stephen Morrow, they spent 45 minutes rewinding the videotape. George Graham's telling everybody, "Look, I touched it. Can't you see the touch?" And everyone, where it was mayhem on the coach. It absolutely was. But what he said to the team was, "We're not going to go up the day before. We're going to go up the day of the game." He said, "We're going to do it like SAS. We're going to go in, win, and get out." And, you know, the calmness before the game, we were all in the dressing room. We sat behind a goal during the game. And, you know, obviously what happened. It was a fantastic win. I lost it. I don't know if you could see, there's two coppers grabbed somebody at the side of the pitch from running on. It was me. I'd lost it as soon as the ball hit the back of the net. And on the way back, obviously, the roads were crazy. Everton fan doing the conga along the East Lancs Road. So we get back, we go to the club. Everybody's celebrating. Lads are losing their blazers. But me and Rocky get back on the coach with Tony Donnelly and the driver. So we go back to Highbury. And we get to Highbury and we get to the steps leading up to the Marble Halls, and there's a fella on the steps asleep. So I say to Rocky, I said, "Rocky, should we, what should we do with him? Should we bring him in or should we wake him up?" He says, "No," he said, because they call me Rambo at the time, Rambo. He said, "I'll wake him up. You go in and get 3 beers and let's have a beer with him." So I went and got 3 beers, and I don't know who that fella was. Maybe he can, tell us. at some stage. But we sat there and had a beer with him, and we were asking him what was his night like, and he was telling us that he was in the Arsenal tavern, and he was there. His missus don't know where he is, but he just felt compelled to sit on the stairs, you know. And he said, we've made his life, he said. So that was a really nice touch.
Oh, my God, that is such a brilliant story.
Oh, brilliant.
It's just brilliant. It's top shelf stuff. And I'm sure there's like a ton of those from that night. And, you know, so is everyone at the Winners' Club at this point in Southgate? And you guys are back up?
No, we were at the Winners' Club, but obviously Tony Donnelly's getting on a bit. So he's saying, right, you know, come on, guys, we've got to go. And to be fair, all the lads, all their cars and stuff like that are at the training ground, so they haven't got to go there. But myself and Dave Rocastle, we've got to get back to South London. So we're the only ones on the coach with Tony Donnelly and the driver. So
real quick, Kevin, you just to circle back to that game, because there's one thing I always wondered, and he kind of answered it in the 89 film, and that was when, you know, the whistle went, everyone was going nuts, and George Graham, in probably the most exciting moment of any player's life and any fan's life, is telling everyone to calm down, right? And he said, he goes, I didn't even know what I was thinking at the time. Even though he knew you could do it, even he couldn't believe it when he happened. What did he say to you guys in the dressing room after that moment? What was the collective conversation after the game?
Well, there was a lot of obviously happiness and cheers, and there was a lot of champagne being popped. But in a moment of serenity, what he done, he sat the players down and he said, look, he says, that's what we work all season for. So when they came in with the champagne, George Graham just said, look, lads, you know, this is class football club, class organisation, but they're winners. And, you know, they know when a team comes there, a team has to earn to beat them, and you guys have earned it. So that was more champagne being popped and, you know, a lot of smiles, but it was such a surreal atmosphere in there, because I'd grown up with a lot of these guys, you know, seen them come from nothing and make their debuts and go through tough times and toughen themselves up, and now they were league champions. It was fantastic.
Brilliant.
Okay. Something I've never asked, actually, because I've never had anyone to ask this to. The next morning, I wake up and all my lot, we go to Highbury. We just go for like the day and night. I don't know what, I can't remember, I have to be honest. I did write a blog on all this, but I can't remember what I did. I just know that we ended up in Highbury. So I don't know what time all of you went to bed, because God knows what time it was. When you woke up, I mean, obviously, you know, Rocky and everybody, what was it like knowing what you'd just done the night, what Arsenal had just done the night before?
Well, like I say, we got back to the club. Rocky and I got back to the club with the kit man and the driver. We had a beer on the stairs, and there was fans turning up at the ground all the time. And again, this is what makes Rocky so special. He wouldn't. We'll order the taxi. The taxi was waiting, but he wouldn't go. He was signing all the autographs for all the fans, which is brilliant, you know. And I got a few things signed by Rocky. That's how much a fan I was. I got Rocky to sign some bits and pieces because I had a program which had never even been signed because I was too busy drinking champagne in the dressing room. But then we got back to. I never slept. We got back to Brixton. Rocky dropped me off. And a lot of my friends were there because they were Arsenal fans. There's a big contingent of Arsenal fans in South London, so a lot of my pals were there. And it was quite surreal, to be honest, because everybody has a different evening. Everybody had a different feeling, a different story to tell. And we were just talking about the stories, and we'd go to the pub and we'll swap stories and have a drink, and because the next day, I'm sure it was the parade on the Sunday.
Yeah, it was. I was there. Yeah.
You know, so having that Saturday, you know, we had to make sure we weren't too smashed up because we had to get to Highbury on the Sunday. So, but it was amazing. Honestly, it was such an amazing. It's weird. Any team who's won it since, You can never beat that day. Never. The way it was done.
Never. I've got loads and loads of City friends, and we argue about this, and I say never. Oh, Kev, you know what? Me and you could talk about this for hours on end, and I can't. There's so much else to talk to you about. One of the things that I do want to ask, just want to jump back a little bit. George Graham, and was Theo Foley your coach or Stuart Houston to begin with?
Theo Foley was the first team manager, assistant manager, yeah.
Okay. Your first day under George Graham?
Yes.
What was it like?
Well, you got to remember, when I was coming through, Terry Neal was the manager.
Right.
And there was a different feel around the club. There was unrest around the club. It wasn't a nice place at certain times in them 80s, was it, Amanda?
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't a nice feeling around the club, and the club had got stagnant. But from when George Graham took over, again, I revert back to that first meeting he had with all the playing staff. He mentioned how we're going to play. We're going to be a lot more aggressive. The way we play, young players are going to get a chance. He said, everything's going to be done on merit. He said, Liverpool are the team to go for, and that's who our eyes are going to be set on. He said, we're going to set a game plan to be able to challenge Liverpool. He said, forget anybody else. We want to beat everybody else, but we want to take Liverpool's mantle. And he said, and we will. He said, if we can implement the game plan. And the way he said it out, and the way he talked about it with such a passion and a knowledge, I mean, honestly, I was 16 at the time. I was revved up, honestly. I don't know how anybody else felt, but I felt to myself, I'm going to get a chance. If I do the business, I'm really going to get a chance. And, maybe that's changed now, but George Graham set that game plan out and set the foundation for the football club for years to come. And, he should have a statue, I swear to you, because the stuff that he put in place, the checks and balances that he put in place for young players was immense. And to be fair to me, he had a good backroom staff. Theo Foley was fantastic. He was a great foil. But that young Pat Rice, looking after the young players, Pat Rice was phenomenal for the future. And Pat Rice had coached many of the players, so that made things a lot easier.
Yeah, and I agree with you about George Graham. Everyone talks about Wenger being a trailblazer, but the trailblazing did start. He instilled this culture in the club, and other managers were able to take on from that. Let's fast forward a little bit. You have a really good career at Arsenal. You're probably dreaming of playing for that club for your entire life. Then, in all kind of teams, these things do happen. They sign a player. I thought they signed a player, and I really don't like it when clubs do this, that is lesser a talent than the player that they have. When Arsenal signed John Hartson, and again, like to get into the head of a player here, when you see that happen, what's running through your mind, Kevin? What are you thinking at the time?
Well, remember, George Graham had got the sack.
Yep.
And there was change in the club. When you're in the club, you could feel the momentum shift, and that focus that was there wasn't there anymore. And obviously, John Hartson, who's a good lad, know John, he came in. Chris Kiwamya came in. Glenn Helder came in. So a lot of those forward positions got taken up. And for myself, it was okay. Am I going to roll my sleeves up? Of course, I'm going to roll my sleeves up. I'm fight for a position. But let's see who the new manager is who comes in, because obviously Stuart Houston was assistant manager, but I think everybody knew Stuart weren't going to get the job. So it was just a matter of getting through that season to the summer, seeing who the new manager was, and that's another challenge, because it's for me, it's all about the challenge. Obviously, being at Arsenal, great, but you've got to be challenged. So I was just waiting to see who was the manager in that summer, and got to the summer, my contract was up as well. So, I could actually see who was interested in me out there. And, obviously I met up, Bruce Rioch took the helm. I had one meeting with Bruce Rioch, and I never forget, I left the meeting and I rang Righty and I said, Righty, good luck with this guy. I said, because
Wow.
I'm off.
Wow.
And, Righty said, you're joking, Cam, you're going? I said, yeah, I'm off. I said, good luck with this guy. And as obviously as the future went, it didn't quite work out with a lot of the players, and Bruce Rioch. So, 10 months later, he was gone, and then Arsene Wenger came in. So people ask me, are you a bit gutted that you didn't work under Wenger? Actually, no, because I didn't ever get the opportunity to. I would never have had the opportunity. So it's just one of those things.
Okay, you know what? We have got so much to talk to you about that we can't go into every club, but there are a couple of clubs I do want to talk to you about. Trabzonspor.
I can't believe you pronounced that the way you did. Round of applause. Well done, Amanda.
Well done.
Well
Amanda.
done. Well done, Amanda. Well done.
Do you know how many times I've practiced? Do you know? And I have literally been conscious. Now I'm probably going to say it wrong. Trabzonspor and Everton. We're going to start with your time in Turkey. Any interesting stories to tell us? And I know Soph wants to ask you a quick question.
Yeah, there's loads of stories to tell about Trabzonspor. Trabzonspor is one of the 4 big teams. Basically, you get 4 pages in the newspaper a day. They've had their own radio station and TV station for 20 years before we've even thought of them things. 80 to 120 press travel with the team for every game. You get interviewed daily. You have a 5-a-side. You get marks in the newspaper. You have a practice game. You get marks in the paper. It's that intense. It's seriously intense. Probably one of the funny stories was we're playing Galatasaray at their old stadium, the Ali Sami Yen, welcome to hell and all that kind of thing.
Crazy.
And we're coming out to warm up. And when you come out from under the tunnel behind the goal. And the riot police have got their shields up. And these things are hitting their riot shields. But when you look at it, there's nails and razor blades and all sorts in these like rubber balls. And there's an old boy there with a bucket, just picking these things up. And as I'm going onto the pitch, I turn around and have a look. And his bucket's full and he's taking it back to the fans for round 2, when we're coming off. It's crazy.
Oh, my goodness.
It really was.
It's a crazy, intense atmosphere. The welcome to hell thing was, played out widely, didn't it? I mean, people want to talk about the London derby being intense, but that's a whole other level of intensity. And Kevin, one of the not so funny things you experienced and a bit of a negative was you were racially abused when you played in Turkey, which is such a...
Can I stop you?
Yeah, yes.
Can I stop you?
Yes.
I actually wasn't.
Why has that been reported that you were then? What's the scoop behind that whole story and that the players stood up for you and, talk us through that then?
Well, what happened was, because I'd made really good friends with a lad and his family in Trabzon called Sophie. And when basically the chairman got asked a question, and there's a saying in Turkish called yam yam. And that is eat, he's going to eat. Yeah, he's going to eat. So if you say, right, he's going to eat the team, that don't mean he's going to be a cannibal to the team. That means he's going to take them out. So he was asked a question, and the chairman used a reference with yam yam. The press obviously spun it round and made it racial. That he's called me a cannibal. This weird thing is, I didn't know any of this was going on. I'd been to see Sophie. I sat down with him, and was getting on with business. And he said to me, he explained what was going on. He said, this isn't a racial thing. This is what the Turkish would use to say, he's gonna eat them. He's gonna take them out. He's gonna be aggressive with them.
Yeah.
So that was it. But I get to the training ground and the world's press are there and they're making it a racial thing. So that's why the teammates got behind me, because the international press were making it a racial thing. It wasn't a racial thing, obviously, the way the chairman used it, but the way the press reported it, it was a racial thing. I ended up getting suspended. I couldn't play for the club.
Why?
I've no idea. Up to this day, I have no idea. We were doing great in the league, and I couldn't train with the team. I had to train with the under-21s. Basically, I was training 3 times a day. Wow. I trained in the morning before the team. I trained in the afternoon in the gym while the team were out training. And then I trained with the under-21s on the cinders about 4 o'clock. And that went on for about 3 weeks. And the fans were always fantastic with me. This is what I got to tell you. The fans were always brilliant with me. And up till this day, I never even got an opportunity to say goodbye to them.
Wow.
Oh.
Wow. 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 You know, that's insane.
Which was hard. Which was tough.
So did you enjoy your time there?
I absolutely loved it. I really did. You know, if Turkey's a place, if you win, you are king.
Oh, yeah.
If you lose, you do not come out your house. You know, it's that intense. You know, Sophie was telling me a story when Trabzon were going for the title and they just missed out on the title. There was 8 suicides.
It's just crazy.
God.
Yeah, there was 8 suicides. You know, people just can't bear to live because they think they're going to win it and, you know, they don't. So there was 8 suicides. But, you know, they're so, honestly, they're so passionate. And that's the only big team that's not in Istanbul.
Mm-hmm.
Is Trabzon, which is right by the Georgian border, right on the Black Sea.
Ah, so, okay.
You know, it was a special place for me, and I'd love to go back.
Interesting. That is quite extreme, isn't it?
Dangerously passionate. There's passionate, and then there's dangerously passionate. So
that's just
there's a mix.
Far.
Yeah.
Listen, can I tell you one more thing?
Always.
After my first game, what happened? I've got to tell you this quickly. So we have play the first game, and it's one of those games where we could have been playing till today. We wouldn't have scored. The opposition, Gaziantep Spor, they got a goal in the 88th minute, beat us 1-0. So you never showered at the ground. The training ground was like 5 minutes down the road. So the chief of police was there. So I've changed into my shorts and t-shirt and I've come out, and it was like a war zone outside. So I've said to the chief of police, I said, you know, what's going on? Are they trying to get to the opposition? He said, no, they're trying to get to you guys.
Is that what he said?
Yeah. So we needed an armed guard vehicle when we got on the coach. Rubber bullets are being used because the fans are trying to hit the coach with paving stones, and it was mayhem, honestly. It was mayhem.
That's insanity. That's total insanity.
So, one of your other big clubs was Everton. Was it like that there then? What was the difference?
Listen, let me tell you something. Everton are just as passionate.
Yep.
You know, the British clubs are just as passionate, but they show it in a different way. You know, joining Everton when I was growing up were part of that Big Six.
Yeah.
And Everton as a football club are a massive club. So when my agent at the time told me that Everton, he mentioned there was, I think 4 or 5 clubs interested. As soon as he mentioned Everton, I said, yeah, I'll go there. That's the one I want to go to. So I ended up signing for the club. And, you know, my first game for the club was a Merseyside derby. It's the one where Robbie Fowler, Gerard Houllier said he was eating the grass, but he was doing something else with the line, wasn't he? I don't know if you remember that one.
I do, yes.
So that was my first game, was an actual Merseyside derby. And, you know, we played Sheffield Wednesday next, and we got beat 2-1. We were 1-0 up. We gave Benito Carbone 2 back passes, which he intercepted and went through and scored. We hit the bottom 3 at that point. And then the team and myself went on a run of scoring that, you know, kept us up. So that brought me tight to the club. That brought the club tight to me. And the rest was history after that. You know, I've got such a fantastic love affair with the Evertonians. It's amazing.
So, talking of the love affair with the Evertonians, there's a guy on Twitter called @PartAdam, who is a staunch Evertonian and part of the grand old team. And he's got a question for you, Kev, if you don't mind asking.
No problem. Lovely.
Hey Kev, Adam here from Grand Old Team. It may sound like I'm talking a little bit quietly. That's because my pregnant wife is in the next room and I'm recording this really quietly, and if I wake her up I'll be in a lot of trouble, so I'm sure you can appreciate that. First of all, just want to say I am a massive fan, Kev. You were one of my heroes as a young boy. I had you on the back of my shirt, and I think on behalf of all Evertonians, you know, we really appreciate the contribution you made to Everton, keeping us in the league as well. That season when you came in from Turkey and scored a stupid amount of goals in a stupid amount of games, and you know, kept Everton in the Premier League. And I think if Everton would have gone down at that point, I don't think we'd have come back. So thank you so much for that. You know, we'll always love you for that, Kev. My question is regarding Duncan Ferguson, who was another one of my heroes. I'd like to know what the relationship was like between Kevin Campbell and Duncan Ferguson. You know, how did you get on both on and off the pitch? And you know, did you consider Dunk to be a friend? And did you ever speak to him and catch up with him? And you know, what was it like working with him? That'd be fantastic to find that out. And also, you know, I hope that you're enjoying your time on the podcast with the girls as an Evertonian. You know, this is a really good podcast. Even though I'm not an Arsenal fan, and I just want to say, you know, it's great to hear, I think, female voices talking about football, because we don't hear enough of them. So it's a good podcast, and I hope you're enjoying yourself. And thank you for taking my question, and hopefully we'll get you on the Grand Old Team podcast soon too. All the best.
Oh, that's nice.
That was
He's a lovely
epic
fella, isn't he? Lovely guy.
He's lovely, Adam. He wanted to be on, but he couldn't. So go on then, you and Duncan.
Right. So Duncan at the time, when I was there, obviously he'd been at the club and then he'd left. He was at Newcastle. And Walter Smith asked me, he came to me and he said, Kev, he says, there's an opportunity to get Duncan Ferguson back. He said, but, you know, you're captain and obviously your position in the club. Would you want us to pursue it? So I said, of course I'd want you to pursue it, because we want as many good players as we can get, you know. So obviously the deal gets done and Fergie comes in, and from day one since when Fergie came in, I got along with Fergie 100%. I class Fergie as a really good teammate. Whenever I'm around Everton and I see him, we catch up all the time. And you know, when we played together, we were classed the Bruise Brothers. It was, you know, it will be very, very physical at the top end of the pitch. So. Yeah, I class Fergie as a good mate, and it's great to see him still working at Everton now and helping a lot of the youngsters coming through. So yeah, right. And I look forward to going on the Grand Old Team in the future.
They'd love to have you on. I know that for a fact.
Good stuff. Great question and great answer. And I tell you, they don't make centre forwards like Big Duncan and Kev anymore, do they? So no. I have one for you. This is from Peter McPartland, who's a massive Evertonian, a key influencer in Toffee land. He's the host of Toffee TV. You can find them at Toffee TV EFC. Also hosts the Followtonians podcast. So we thought there was some similarities between Arsenal and Everton at the beginning of the season, but wanted to get your take on it. Do you think that we bought the wrong players, mostly on Everton, in terms of how their season has turned out, Kevin, buying shiny things rather than the nuts and bolts players needed? What are your thoughts on that for Peter?
Well, I'll be honest with you, that Everton, fair enough, you know, you can buy players and shiny things, as he calls it, to bolster your squad. But when you lose a player like Romelu Lukaku, who scored 20-odd goals in the season, and you don't replace him, you know, Ronald Koeman has to take some flack about that. Obviously, he ended up losing his job because of it. Mm-hmm. But when you don't replace 20-odd goals a season and a striker, and you're really relying on a young England under-20, under-21 striker in Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who's done decent, but you can't pin your hopes on a baby. You just can't do that in the Premier League. You know, that's where it fell apart for me. yeah, there was, there's a lack of pace in the team, etc., etc. But as long as you've got a goal scorer, you can win games. And bringing Rooney in and Sigurdsson and all those things are fantastic. But you need that player at the top end of the pitch who can score goals. And Everton haven't had that for probably half of the season. So, now they're obviously safe. But for me, that was the number one priority to replace, and they never done it.
Yeah. And in some cases, do you feel like the young players there have been set up to fail by not building the right players around them? Because they've come under a lot of criticism this season too, which I think is a little bit unfair.
Well, this is the game now, getting flack, and it's going to toughen them up. So I'll be honest with you, I think it's important for the young players now to kick on and accept the responsibility, because there's an old saying in football, if you're good enough, you're old enough.
Yeah.
So if you're actually in there and you're playing, flack's gonna fly. There's only so long being a young player could save you from flack. But once you're getting in there and you're getting in amongst it, let the flack fly, because that's only going to make you better for the current and the future.
Right, we've got loads and loads of questions for you. I honestly don't know which ones to choose.
Fire away, come on, let's do it.
I know, but we've got so much. We ever thought, okay, let's just do a couple. So at AFATGunner007.
That's a great handle, sorry.
That's Walter. Walter, whether his name's Walter, I tweet him a lot. He makes me laugh. Hello, you. Right, Kev, have you ever thought about going into coaching?
When I was at West Bromwich Albion with Brian Robson and Nigel Pearson, Craig Shakespeare, Michael Appleton was there, all those guys. That was such a good environment. I was looking to get on the coaching side of it, but it didn't quite work out in the end. Let's just put it that way. It didn't quite work out in the end, and I'm quite happy being on this side of it now, because obviously having a son who's breaking through, another son who's looking to break through. Being a football dad is good. It's good.
Let's talk about that quickly, because he came on yesterday, didn't he?
Yeah, he came on against the Spuds, he did. And he done pretty well when he came on. One thing I've noticed is he's improving. Now he's in and around the first team all the time. I could see his game improving, and for a young player who's only 18, it's good to see a kid progress, especially obviously if it's your own. So fingers crossed, he's got a bright future. If he works hard and he learns and he listens, fingers crossed he'll have a good career.
What a great feeling to watch your son come out and play the game that you love. And is it more exciting in different ways to see him come out and start his career than it was for you in your moment, Kevin?
Sophie, when I played, I was never nervous. I was more nervous watching my son than I ever was playing. Yeah. I was never nervous, because at Arsenal we trained so hard, and the games were the easy part most of the time. So, it's I'm so proud as a dad to see him make his debut, made his home debut yesterday. So, hopefully, he'll go on to have a great career.
Brilliant.
Okay. We've got loads of questions, but there's one specific I think that you should answer. You might know this person. It's at John Simmons 13.
Oh, Red-Nosed John.
Red-Nosed John. I asked for a private question you've not seen.
Right. Okay.
We have two from Red-Nosed John. I know Red-Nosed John quite well, so honestly. Anyway, just too funny.
He's a Liverpool fan. He's a Londoner, by the way. A South Londoner.
Yeah,
but he's a Liverpool fan.
He is. How dare he? Anyway, number one. This is from John. What was it about the ball put through to you by Red-Nosed Messi during the Children in Need March that was so special? Was it the swaz or the weight that made it so delicious?
Actually, it was the fact that he fell over the ball. He fell over the ball and the ball trickled forward. He didn't play it. He fell over it, so he's trying to get me there. It won't work, Red Nose.
It won't, will it? We'll have Red Nose. And number 2, and you have to do this, I'm afraid, because you've agreed to come on our podcast. Number 2, ask him to finish the song lyric, and you can tell everybody.
We're gonna win the league. That's what he always says, and it hasn't worked out yet. It's been 20 odd years, hasn't it, that they haven't won the league. He keeps singing that to me, talking about a red wave. There is no red wave because they ain't winning the title for years to come. So thanks, John, for that. But brilliant. I could finish it. You're not gonna win the league.
Oh, bless him.
Such good stuff.
What we do, Sophie, we just humour him all the time. We just humour him. Just let him get on with it.
Brilliant
with his dreams.
Stuff. Brilliant stuff. It's so good. We love the fan interaction. And are we going to ask a couple more, or do you want to do the rest on? Okay, go on.
I've got one more that I think is quite good.
And then we can do the rest on Twitter. How about that?
Yeah. Okay. Kev, would you mind answering him on Twitter? Because
not at all. Don't mind at all.
We just don't have time, and it's brilliant. Thank you for all your questions. Okay, at Ben, BNN1078. Interesting. Who is the best player you played with and the best player you played against?
Oh, I love these ones.
The best player I played against at the time was Gaza. I think Gaza was, at the time, in that, especially that 1990, 91, 92 window, he was unplayable at times. And, he was a good lad as well. He was really funny. He was probably the best player. And that's saying something, considering, we played against AC Milan and all those teams moving forward, Donadoni, Maldini, all those guys. But I think Gaza was pretty special. The best player I've played with, I could go more than enough ways. I could say Gaza because I played with Gaza, but I could change this for anybody, but I'm going to say Tony Adams, because as a leader and as a player, there was nobody like him. There was nobody like him at all. And playing with him, you only realize how good he is when you're not with him. He was a special guy and a special player. So I'd say Tony Adams on this one.
Good choices. Gaza really was a special player, and Tony Adams, man, they don't build them like him anymore. I've said that a couple times in this show, but the truth is the truth. Okay, now we're going to get you out on these next 2 segments. You are listening to Kevin Campbell on Highbury and Heels. He's been very gracious with his time, so we're going to try and wrap things up. But we have to ask you a couple things about today's squad and get your thoughts on that. I have a little segment here called Save or Sell for you. You already alluded to what you would do with Danny Welbeck, but he has fallen into that kind of do we sell him, do we keep him category. So in one sentence, I'd like you to tell me, save or sell Shokran Mustafi.
I would keep him as a squad player, but he wouldn't be my first choice, because I'll definitely go and get 2 top international centre-halves.
Yeah.
I would.
Oh, so would we.
Keep him, but he'd be a squad player.
Yeah, I hope we get Babastadopoulos from Borussia Dortmund. That would be lovely. Okay.
Oh, we can't. I can't even say his name. What's that? Say it again.
Babastadopoulos. Then he can keep Mavropanos company.
There you go.
I can't even say it.
Here's one that might be a little bit controversial, but I do feel like he's passed his sell-by date a little bit at Arsenal. Laurent Koscielny, save or sell?
I think Laurent Koscielny has had a great Arsenal career, but I think he's struggling now. So he can't play 2 games in a week now. And if you're going to be captain or you're going to be that mainstay at the back, you're going to have to be able to play multiple games and back-to-back games. So unfortunately, it's sell Koscielny.
Okay, one more for you. Jack Wilshere.
100%. Jack Wilshere is that bridge for Arsenal fans to the team. I would keep Jack. I think Jack's come back from a very tough place in his career, and it's only the first season where he's actually been in around the first team again. So I believe next season is where Jack's going to really excel, because he's not an old player, he's a young player, but he needs to get that year under his belt, which he's doing. So I would keep him. but the way the club's looking right now, it's not looking good. It looks like he's gonna go, which I don't agree with.
Okay,
so I'd keep Jack.
Okay, so real quick, I lied. I got one more for you. But our next captain, if Koscielny goes, are you voting for Mesut Ozil, Aaron Ramsey, or Nacho Monreal?
I'd say Aaron Ramsey. I think Aaron Ramsey, when he's fit, Aaron Ramsey can do so much for the team, and I'd like to see him get the armband, because is he not the one of the longest serving players now?
He is. Yeah.
So I think he's earned that right. He's earned that right to be able to take that mantle on. So I would give it to him.
Excellent. I'm with you on Rambo. Okay, so we're going to get you out. We're going to get you out on this segment. We're going to kick it off. As you know, you're a listener of the show, and we'd like to thank you for supporting our show from day one, Kevin. It's always important to get key influencers on side, and the support that you've shown us and the way you share the podcast with people and get involved and answer questions and interact with fans has meant the world to us. And we owe you a drink, although I'm hoping Amanda did buy you one last week when you guys were able to connect at the game.
Amanda.
Next time it's my
Mystic Man. Sorry,
Mystic Man predicted 3-1 or 3-0 today, so I wasn't far off.
Hilarious.
I said 3-1 myself, so we're not far off.
Yeah, I had 3-1 too. All right, next time Amanda's buying the drinks, but yes, we're going to get you out on quickfire, on the quickfire round. When you hear the cowbell, Amanda's going to begin the first segment, and then you'll hear me, and then Amanda will wrap it up with the last segment. All right, everyone ready?
I'm ready. Okay, so this is an Everton v Arsenal segment. It is tattoo the Everton badge or Arsenal cannon on your arm.
Cannon.
Duncan Ferguson or Ian Wright?
Ian Wright.
Everton mid-80s squad or Arsenal's 89 team?
89.
One last game to play, Kev. Goodison or Highbury?
Highbury under the lights, please.
All right, who's a better team, the 89 squad or the Invincibles?
I would say 89.
Righty or Henry?
Righty.
In a UFC-style fight, who's winning, Adams or Bold?
Bold.
Better passer of the ball, Dixon or Winterburn?
Winterburn.
Arsene Wenger or George Graham?
George Graham.
If you could have re-signed one, Cesc Fabregas or Robin Van Persie if they'd have come back to the club?
Fabregas.
Okay, Mark Morrison or Craig David?
Mark Morrison.
Romantic comedy or thriller?
Thriller.
Who is the bow tie king, you or Sinatra?
It's me, Kevin Campbell. Definitely.
Okay, if you was asked, would you go on Dancing on Ice or Strictly Come Dancing?
If the brothers don't do the ice, Strictly Come Dancing, I suppose.
The brothers.
We don't do the ice, mate.
I love it.
So you're going to go dancing. Right, sweet or salty popcorn?
Sweet.
Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Wars.
Yes.
Great job, Kevin.
Is that it done already?
Yeah, it's quickfire, isn't it?
I know, but I thought there'd be a lot more questions. Jeez.
Well, how about we'll do another special quickfire episode with you, just quickfire, because I could write those all day long. It's my one of my favourite segments. I love it.
But can I tell you something?
Yes, mate.
Those questions were loaded. How are Everton going to beat Arsenal at that time?
That was a pretty good Everton team. Graham Sharp, Sheedy, Reed.
Yeah, but it's Mystic Man, isn't it? It's that Mystic Man. I know it is.
So
I'll tell you
brilliant.
I'll tell you what, Kev, right? Why don't you stay with us? You don't have to do Snog, Marry, Avoid, but why don't you stay with us? I'll do it with Soph. You can listen to us, and then we can talk to you about our predictions that are coming up, CSKA and Newcastle, yeah?
Fantastic. Yeah.
Okay, fine. This is our segment, Soph. I've done these three because of Kev. Okay, so snog, marry, avoid. Soph, David Hillier, Alan Smith, or Gus Caesar.
Well, this is a tough one. I think I'm going to marry Alan Smith. I mean, who wouldn't want to be married to Smudger? Plus, I know he's got quick feet, so if we ever got in a pickle, I know we'd be able to get out of there pretty quickly, right? I think I'm going to avoid David Hillier. I don't know. I don't know why, but I'm just going to avoid him. And I think I'll snog Gus Caesar, because why not? Plus, I know, yes, I'm going to leave it at that. How about that?
Because it's my turn now. Without any shadow of a doubt, I am marrying Alan Smith. So we can sit and watch that game, and I can ask him the same question I ask him every time I see him. Did you touch that ball? Did it really touch your cheek? Every time I speak to him or see him. I'm going to avoid. Kev, who do you think I'm going to avoid?
You're going to avoid Gus Caesar.
Oh, I am. You know me so well. He broke my heart in 1988 against Luton in a final at Wembley, and I cannot ever forgive him for not kicking that ball into row Z. Thank you. So he has to be avoided, and I'd snog David Hillier. Yeah, no, not poor Gus. Poor me. I had to go to school. No, I was at work the next day, and I had to listen to Gus Caesar this and Gus Caesar that. How did you lose to Luton? And honestly, was distraught because the year before we beat Liverpool, didn't we?
That's right.
It was this week, like last week. It was 31 years.
31 years anniversary, yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah, so I'll snog David Hillier because I know him a little bit and he's lovely.
He's a good chap. They're all good chaps.
Well, yeah, sort of.
So
thank you for staying with us. And now we're going to talk about our little predictions. We have got Siska on Thursday and Newcastle away Sunday. Now, interestingly, I don't know the West Ham Chelsea score. Actually, does either of you know the score?
It was 1-0.
Yeah, one each.
Oh,
one each.
West Ham got a point.
Yeah, got a point. One
right,
each.
Which now means, the reason I asked this is now means because I think we're only 6 points behind Chelsea. Now, they're not on a good run, are they? So Newcastle seems to be, not that it's important if you finish 5th or 6th, it's the same, but it would be nice, wouldn't it, to have a little, few games leading up to the end of the season. We could go above Chelsea. So bearing this in mind, what do you reckon, Kev? Thursday, Siska away. We're already 4-1 up, aren't we?
Yeah, I think what we've got to do is go there and score first. Go there and score first, and just put the tie to bed. Simple as that. And then obviously their heads will drop. But what we don't want to do is mess around and they score one, and then we start wobbling. So I just think get the minds in, get the minds right, get out there, be aggressive, and go for them. I'm not that worried about them because I think they're going to come onto us and attack, but it's about us on the break. I think we could take them on the break.
So prediction.
Prediction, I'd say Arsenal to win 2-1.
And 3 days later, we go Newcastle I think it's a 1:15 kickoff or whatever time it is on the Sunday. Not easy, is it? Coming back from Russia on the Friday and or Thursday night late, and then going to Newcastle. It's not going to be easy there, is it?
No, it's not. That's got a draw written all over it. One each, I'd say.
Okay, Soph?
I think it's going to be a bit tricky in Moscow. It's not the easiest place to go play, is it? So I'm going to say 2-2. And Newcastle away. They're doing really well right now. Rafa's got them to mid-table. I think he should be really, pat on the back for what he's been able to do with that team this season with very little resources. Just shows what a really good manager he is. And I will say that will end in a 3-2 win for the Gunners.
Okay, so I think Siska, 2-2, fun enough, so same as you. Thought about that before. And I'm with you on that, the Newcastle one, Kev. I think it's going to be a draw. I think both are going to be draws, and I'm happy with that. Before we end the show, I want to talk about Ray Wilkins. I think we need to just touch on this. You know, a great legend of the game, a great person, a great man. Did you know him well?
Yes, I did. I'd shared many a cup of coffee and have a good chat with Ray Wilkins, and you know, he's a remarkable man, because this is a few years ago now. He pulled me and he's asking me about. I didn't even know he knew my son was playing. He's asking me about, how's your boy doing? And I was like, wow. Ray, how do you know about you? How do you know about my son? And he was saying, you know, because Ray was all about young British players getting an opportunity. He loved to see young players get an opportunity. The first time I actually really met him was when he was playing at QPR, and obviously I was coming through at Arsenal, and we played against each other. And he'd always have words of advice for you. He was one of the nicest men in football. That obviously, for me, Rocky was the number one nicest guy in football. Ray Wilkins was an absolute gentleman, and you know, it's just so sad that somebody like him could pass so young. You know, 61 is nothing. So you know, obviously, condolence goes out to his family and you know, his loved ones for sure.
Oh, it's so sad. You know, he was part of my growing up with football, you know, and such a young age to pass.
Do you know what, as well? He was one of those players that even if you didn't support Man United or Chelsea or QPR or any of the teams or Milan, you still liked him. He just had that about him, didn't he? He was one of those respectable, loved the way he played, loved the way he always carried himself, players. And I think that doesn't really happen often, where you really admire and like someone who plays for a rival or opposing team.
Yeah, he was a special guy.
May he rest in peace. And
ladies, I've got a question for you.
Ooh.
Oh, okay. Oh,
I've got a question for you, so you can answer this whenever you like. But the question I've got for you is, the top 4 positions at Arsenal, you got chairman, chief exec, manager, and assistant manager. Of all you 4 ladies, where would you sit in the hierarchy at Arsenal?
That is a really good question. Are we gonna have to think about that one, or answer it?
You think about that one.
Okay.
You think about that one for all the girls when you speak to them and all that.
And answer it on the spot.
Who's going to be manager, who's going to be assistant, chief exec, and the chairman.
Yeah.
Oh, but there's no doubt in my mind where I am.
Or chairwoman, should I say.
You think you're the chairman, don't you? I knew it.
Of course I am.
Of course, Mystic Mandy's going to try and put herself there, isn't she?
I am the oldest, the most mystic. And I would be able to get rid of Arsene Wenger. Oh my God, yes.
Oh my God, dreams come true for you. I'd love to be manager. I wonder if I could get voted in as manager.
I think it's the best of both worlds, because if you're chairman, if you get control of everything. It's just great.
Oh gosh.
I'd love it.
Kevin, what have you done? All the power's gone to her head already. What are we going to do?
Well, look, you've got 2 other people to speak to, so you speak to them, because I'm sure could be another person who would love to be chairwoman.
Well, it doesn't matter. I'm on the pod and I go first, and that's it.
You're right.
I take control.
Brilliant.
Right, listen, this has run so far on, and it's been fantastic, and I could carry on with you for ages and ages and ages, talking about so much. There's so much we've missed. We'd love to have you back on. Would you come on again?
And listen, I would definitely love to come back on. And can I just say, I think what you ladies are doing with Highbury and Heels is groundbreaking stuff. And keep going, and more of the other pods support you. You're getting a lot of support now, so keep it up, girls. You're doing a fantastic job.
Oh, thanks, Kevin. You're a
we
rock
love
star.
Kevin,
Yeah.
don't we? So
He's definitely my 2018 crush.
yeah, you're our crush now.
Football crush.
Really?
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's nice. Hopefully we could have a bit of crush on your bind of beers, Amanda.
And as we said, and as you say to Lee, we need to find a wine bar, because
Yes,
honestly,
we need a wine bar.
I need to say this before I end the show, but I met up with Kevin, for a drink with a few of the Arsenal lot last week. And I have to tell you that wherever we walked, wherever we went, wherever we sat, people were non-stop coming up to him. And not once did you make a face. Were you rude? Nothing. You did not stop with everybody. And the lady who was holding up the Rocky banner came up to me and just was so thrilled, because I obviously took a picture of you two, that she thanked me. And you know what? You are one of the nicest people in football. Honestly, it's just brilliant that you support us. Thank you for your kind words. You have, as Sophie said, you have supported us from day one and you've championed us. So we can't thank you enough. And you know what? I watched all their faces when you had pictures done with them. It was just lovely. And I wish more ex-footballers were like you. I have to say that.
It's a pleasure. And it's actually nice interacting with fans, because I remember coming through, the fans never really had that connection. You had the connection with the team because a lot of them were homegrown, but actually interacting and meeting them wasn't, never used to happen. So I always love to meet up with fans and hear their opinions. So.
Super Kev, super Kev, super Kevin Campbell.
You missed that, super. Oh.
Well, that's because you jumped in and you totally threw me off.
It's always my fault. Everything is my fault.
Listen, when you're the chairman, you got to take responsibility and be accountable. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and I want to see your points on the pitch. Thank you, if you're the manager.
Brilliant stuff. Thanks so much, Kevin. You rock.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
And the only way to end the show is like this. Amanda?
Always Arsenal.